And I have a big folder full of work in progress images and other stuff. So if you have a question, hopefully I have an image to help you. If not, I will try to draw it in Procreate. So does anyone have a question?
What is the liner on the head and feet made of?
The liner on the feet is, so it's called neoprene, but most fursuit makers, when they talk about neoprene, they're talking about like a spongy, rubbery. It's not that neoprene. It's like a very thick fabric. That's just what that manufacturer calls it. On the head, it is called, I don't know, I will look it up, but I think it's millicloth or milliskin. And I get most of my fabrics that are not fur from a site called The Fabric I'll look it up for you. It's really hard to find fabrics that are not fur anymore with Joann Clothing and also Amazon buyingfabric.com. So there's basically one site I can get that kind of stuff from.
Is that where you buy that outdoor tread?
I buy that usually on eBay or Amazon. It's from a company called Soul Tech, Soul like foot. And I think I have it written on the back of the scrap in the box, but it's measured in irons, so it's 7 irons thick. And that one I use on those feet is called gum crinkle. That's the texture, because you can get it in waves, but I found that the waves, like it'll trap pebbles. So I use the crinkle one.
What can you and can't you save when you're shaping your foam?
You can really save anything. I don't use it because like fursuit customers are very picky. But if you have like very small scraps, you can just use it to stuff a tail. So you really don't have to throw anything away.
I more meant like flaws that you can work with.
How far is too far for you?
Yeah.
Oh,
How far until you can't Frankenstein it?
So I use spray glue on. So this is the inside of a fursuit head, and you can kind of see like these white lines between the foam. That's spray glue. I didn't bring my bottle of spray glue, but I don't know if I have a picture. I use Gorilla Glue. You just get it at a hardware store, and I use the kind that says web because it comes in web and spray. The web one, it literally looks like a cobweb, and that way, like when you're spraying it, you don't get like the puddles of glue, and you can also see where you're putting glue. I use spray glue because, so that's what that white part up in the temple is. That's the spray glue. It's not hard like hot glue. Hot glue is plastic, so when you put it on foam, you just have like a line of plastic. So it's really hard to cut through. When you use spray glue, you can just cut right through it with that box cutter. That's what I use for most of my head carving. And so like, if I accidentally like removed the whole eyebrow, and I was like, uh-oh, I can just spray glue it back on and then trim it again like nothing happened. So this was a pre-made I made, and I was not happy with it. And so I actually just took off the face, and I actually did that where I just removed the muzzle because it was spray glue. I can just like cut through it, glue it back on. And then I just like re-taped his face to get a new pattern. And this is what he looked like afterwards. And so like you can really, I don't think there's like a too far point when it comes to carving. And you also don't need to get it super smooth. This is like the smoothest I'll go when it comes to carving, because fur is gonna cover most of that up. The part of the fursuit head you want to be really smooth is the parts where like the fur is gonna be really short, so like the muzzle, the chin area, maybe the eyebrow. But everything behind the eyebrow, it doesn't need to be smooth.
So you can sort of make up the difference with the tape?
Yeah, and like I only tape half the head, so if there's like a symmetry problem from left to right, the fur being symmetrical will cover that up.
Measurements, like eye width or like how close your brow is?
So fit-wise, it would be like around your eyebrows and then like under your chin. Comfort-wise, if you want to see in your fursuit, if you actually look on that head, if you just like look at him, his eyes are kind of close together. It's just because I like to be able to see in front of me. When I wear that head, there's basically no blind spot in the center. So if you are concerned about a blind spot, you want your pupils to be closer together. And if you want better vision, it's not about the size of the eyes, it's about how close they are to your face. So if you just think about like, if you hold your hand like this and you put it like right on your eye, you can see really well. But if you try to see through this space, holding your hand out like that, you can't see anything. So I try to make as little space in front of my eyes as I can in my heads.
Whatever reason, what should they avoid?
It really depends on what you're going for. I made my bucket head pattern by just, I have one of those like mannequin head stands, and I covered it in a shopping bag, and I just taped it, and then I used that to make the pattern.
I have a follow-up. Foam thickness for that.
Half inch.
Half inch,
Yes.
always? What if you accidentally buy more than you need? For
You can,
budget?
you can use a larger thickness. A smaller thickness, it'll get like really flimsy and it really won't hold its shape. Larger than that, it will decrease the space inside of your bucket.
Probably insulated and make it hotter too.
Yeah, well, you can carve it away. Like when that picture I showed earlier, that's like one of the last steps I do when like carving a fursuit head, is I will carve away the inside of the mouth just so that there's like no foam touching my cheek area. I find that's like what makes a head really uncomfortable if it's like pressing on your chin, cheek area. But like because I use spray glue, that like clown mouth shape, that's what I'm gonna cut away so that it's more comfortable. But because I use spray glue, I'll just take the box cutter, extend it, and then just like shave away on the inside. So if you use a foam that's like very thick for the bucket, you can just carve away on the inside. What was the first half of your question? Yeah, we can come back to it. Any questions?
Deal with having glasses besides just taking off glasses?
Yes, you could put a zipper or some other type of like magnet snap in the back of the head just so that like instead of trying to pull the head over your glasses, you can just put the like head on this way so it won't disturb your glasses.
My head swings out that way, but
So next time, not clamshell.
There is also like the stuff that like scuba divers use to put it on the inside of their masks so it doesn't fog up. You can use that for your glasses as well.
In what situations would you not use a bucket head base? Like for example, the chemical style fursuit head.
I just like the bucket style head because if you have ever seen like a fursuit and like it looks very pretty from the front and then it like turns to the side and looks like the back of its head has collapsed in, it's because there's like no foam back there. Because like when you build the features on the front of the fursuit head, it makes the front of your head bigger. So that's why I use the bucket to make sure it's big all the way around.
On a building.
So that's why I just tend to use that, but like the bucket describes like just the step. It's like step one bucket. Like the balaclava style, when you would just use like the ski mask and then you would glue the features directly on that. Some people used to do a block method where you would just get big blocks of foam, glue it all together, and then like just like a marble block. So it's really just a personal preference on how you want to build your fursuit head.
I have a couple.
Mm-hmm.
The first one is slits on your like cheek foam.
Mm-hmm.
On that. Is that just so that it'll flex?
Yeah, the up and down ones?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's, I was using like pretty thick foam, and so in order to get it to wrap around the head, I would have to like cut those lines in it. I've started to use a thinner foam, so I get all of my foam from foambymail.com. Foamfactory.com is also the same company. So the dark foam that is on that base, it's charcoal foam and it is the regular firmness. It comes in like regular and firm. Firm is way too firm and you're gonna get a wrist injury if you use it. The only reason I use it is because you can kind of see on this white base on the seam in the middle, it's kind of yellow. White foam will yellow over time. And I was just sick of explaining that to customers. Like, it's not pee, it's just the sun. But it's also hard to mark on that. You can basically only use silver metallic Sharpie. to mark on it. Where on the polyfoam, that's what the white stuff is called. You can see I used like a black Sharpie, I've used a red Sharpie. You can use any color on it. So I actually recommend using polyfoam.
And then, do you use that web glue that you're talking about for attaching fur as well?
Yes, I try to avoid using glue where I can, just because I want my fursuit heads to be super light. That's just like a personal preference. So on something like this, I'll use hot glue between his wrinkles because I want the fur, make sure the fur stays down in there. And I also will usually glue around like the smile lines because I also want the fur to stick in there. I'll hot glue around the eyelids just because that has to be really precise and I don't want to spray glue the front of the head. And everything else is usually spray glue. And I do that by just like rolling. I use foam heads so like you can squish them down and roll them in there. And like I sew all of my fur into one big sock and then I put it on there. So like that's the neck, nose is attached, the mouth lining, ear lining, everything is attached. And so I'll just kind of like open the eye hole and spray glue in it. And then like, that's how I do it.
Do you have any thoughts or advice on prototyping or reducing your worry when getting into something like this?
You can always start over and you can always reuse your material. I don't know if I have it in here, but I made a coyote fursuit and I wore it and I was like, okay, that's enough of that. And so, so this is the coyote fursuit I had. And then I just cut it up and I reused the fur. Like you can reuse your fur, you can reuse your foam. You can, if you cut off like your bases, very often when I'm making a fursuit, I'll get to a stage. There's actually a bear in here somewhere where like you can see the line because I'll often be carving a fursuit head and I'll be like, okay, that was nice. And then I'll come back the next day and I'll be like, this actually looks so bad. And so I just cut off the muzzle and I will re-glue it in a new position and then carve it so that it looks correct. If you sew your paws wrong, you can just seam rip, open them up and sew them again. You really can't mess up your fursuit. I showed that one earlier where I just hated the whole face. I didn't have to redo like the back of the head or the ears, but I just ripped off the front of his face.
So I'm coming in like an engineer when I should be coming in like an artist.
Once your family finds out that you're doing sewing projects, they're gonna be like, oh, can you like make me a coat? Can you tailor these? And you're gonna have to be like, no, like I'm doing a different kind of sewing. I'm doing the dark arts version of sewing. I also have a bag up here of my pattern pieces for this bodysuit. The reason I use duct tape dummies is I'm basically like sculpting a body pattern. Like I'm not doing measurements and putting them on paper. I am carving foam and slapping it onto a bodysuit. This is how I make my bodysuits. That black stuff is literally a construction garbage bag, like the big 40, 50 gallon ones. One of those is basically enough to cover an entire person plus foam. And I use duct tape and I tailor it so it's the correct shape, and that's how I get my body patterns. I'm not a tailor. I don't know how to do that. So that's a lot of fursuit making is like, you just get stuff and you just slap it together until it looks correct.
Do you cover that entirely in duct tape?
No, I only cover the parts where there are going to be seams.
Is that enough for like the pattern to hold?
Yeah, as long as you're like not stretching it, which like you're usually not doing that.
Just noticing something with that. Why is the wide of the eye not also a mesh?
The reason is you usually want something to keep the eye mesh stable. There is a piece of the eye mesh just free in there. It's a black piece, and you can see it's like kind of flimsy. Some people are using like computer fan mesh, which is stiffer. And so with that, you can like print or paint the whole eye and use the white as a screen. But because that's so flimsy, it needs something to hold its shape. But if you can make like a very small frame, like that's not the white, like you can just make a ring and like stretch if you have like a looser mesh, but
Okay.
use that. Is there a question?
what is this plastic and where do you get it?
That specifically is just a bowl from the dollar store.
Well,
I do, for a lot of my heads, I have used like an acrylic sheet that's been cut for me by a manufacturer. But like you don't need to do that. That is my favorite. On the fursuit head, his eyes were also from that same bowl from the dollar store. I just painted it with red acrylic and then I sealed it with Mod Podge.
There's a good place for plastic.
Yes, and the reason I like that plastic is because I really like the texture on it, and it has a slight curve to it as well.
Yeah, one side's textured, one side's not.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, you can, my first fursuit head, instead of having a balaclava on the inside, I went to the dollar store, not the dollar store, the hardware store, and got a paint hood, which is what you wear when you're painting so you don't get paint in your hair, because I was like a teenager and I didn't want to sew that part. I also got a chain from the hardware store to make, because it was a panther, and so the chain would like, made the tail move back and forth. So like you don't need, you can literally just go whatever you want and shove it into your fursuit, so. Mm-hmm.
How often do you do these small heads?
Not very often. I usually only do it when like I'm trying something new. For that, I wanted to make very big ears, and I wasn't sure how big it would actually look on a fursuit, so I made a miniature.
Very big.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
For adhesives, at least one of the things that I noticed about where I'm like, I don't want to start doing that, is being kind of nervous about the stability of the foam.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any suggestions for like keeping the stability of the foam, but also like keeping it like lightly, like you said, like
Yeah. So you want to carve out some, like you can leave some parts of the head thicker. So like the cheek area, the like eyebrow area, you can leave it thicker, and that would keep your foam base stable. On some parts of the head though, where you want to make it thinner or where the connection might be weaker, I just hot glue felt on it. Right, let me. So so those are the ears. This is the top of the head, and those blue bits right there are felt. Hot glue is just a plastic. So if you put a whole bunch of hot glue in part of your fursuit, you're basically adding plastic to it, which will keep it stable. So a lot of the time, I didn't do it on this one yet, but where the muzzle attaches, I will put felt, because if you think of like a fursuit head, if you commission a fursuit head from a fursuit maker, they'll be like, don't pick it up by the ears. And it's not because like the ears are just gonna come off, but it's like all that weight on this small part of the head, and it will come loose over time. So that's why I put the felt there. I do it on the muzzle because the muzzle is also a weak point. And sometimes I'll do it on the jaw because you just move that a lot. But really foam, if it's thicker than ½ an inch, it'll probably be pretty stable. It will only be weak if you add a lot of weight on top of that. So if you use like a really thick fur, you probably want a thicker foam.
How would you recommend like sealing or sealing?
You could put a lining over them. With foam, you can actually just put it in a washing machine, so you really don't need to seal it. A lot of the things that are lined on a fursuit are just for show. Like they're not actually adding to the stability or cleanliness of the fursuit. The one exception would probably be around the collar on the bodysuit. That part tends to stretch out over time, which can leave like a big gap between your neck. So lining that keeps it from stretching. But like lining a head, lining a feet, that probably just gets it more dirty. Lining the cuffs, like on your hand paws, that part does tend to stretch over time, so you can line that. So yeah, you can line the foam, but like you don't have to.
With the body of the suit, or to wear them as belts?
That is up to you. For small nubtails, I tend to just attach them to the body because that's just one more thing that you won't lose or forget. For larger tails, if they are floor draggers, you're gonna have to replace that eventually, so I'd avoid attaching that to the body because it would make it hard to replace. Something like a husky tail that like sticks out from the body, it tends to look better if it's attached. It's just very annoying if you attach a part and then it gets worn or damaged, then you have to like figure out a way to.
So pros and cons, form versus function.
Yeah. It does not need to be perfect. I know for a fact that the left and right sides of his head are not correct, especially around the eyebrow area, because I carved his, if I'm looking at him, the left side, because there was only light on the left side of his head because it was like midnight and I couldn't see the other half, so I just carved one half and I tried to make it match, and I know it doesn't. But when you just do a symmetrical pattern, you can kind of cover that up. And I also will take things into Procreate, and I will do the symmetry tool, and then I will just like draw over it. And so you can see like on the left side, I drew the purple line around the cheek, and then you look at the right side, and it is, the cheek is sticking way out there, so I have to cut it off. But really, like, it doesn't need to be. Like, that would probably have been fine. I could have furred it without fixing it, but I did. Mm-hmm.
For like doing the mesh eyes, do you mainly like color those in with like marker, or do you use like a type of spray like that?
I was using Posca and like other paint pens for a while, but I found that it's like really hard to seal them. Like something about the paint would just not let the sealant like cure, and so they would like smear over time. I usually just use acrylic paint. On my YouTube, I have a tutorial about painting eyes. But yeah, I just use acrylic paint. Since I use a black mesh, you kind of want to prime it first. If you want the back of your eyes to be black because it makes vision a lot better, but for the front, when you're painting it, you want it to be white so you can get like really bright colors. So I just put down white acrylic, let it dry, then paint on top of it, and then seal it with some sort of any kind of sealant.
That's why I can't see. Really in the eyes, I keep seeing that you have this like circular plastic thing. Is that also dollar store?
Which part?
It's like a white plastic circle.
Oh, it is, so that's how I make my 3D eyes, and it is like when you did like arts and crafts in school, the little cup, like the paint cup, that's what it is. It is literally, I get mine from dickblick.com, and it's called like water cup. And it's for painting, and I just cut off the bottom of it, and that's where I attach the mesh. And I use that because I don't like when there's like a seam in the 3D eye, so that's just a perfectly round bowl. And that's how this eye is made. You have to put the little felt eye over it because like the way 3D eyes work is that the inside of the eye is larger than the outside. So like when it turns, you see more of the eye. And so like when you change the angle, you can see more of the inside. And you go ahead. Mm-hmm.
Would you have any recommendations on getting a cleaner shade on full parts of the face?
So if you go on Amazon, I brought mine and I can show it at the end of the panel. If you go on Amazon and you type pet clipper, and you will find one that looks like this. It has like a little ring down here, and then the front, it usually has some sort of like animal face on it. They're $20. This is the best thing. It makes me so mad. I have a pair of like Andis that cost me over $200. Not even close to how good this thing is. This thing is so amazing. I got a version of it off Wish for $10. Also amazing, but it did explode. I'm not joking. I was at Anthrocon last year using it, and it went poof, and it just stopped. But $20 on Amazon. This thing's awesome. I don't use the guards on it. I just use it like this, and I start off on. So it has a 4.1, which is in the middle. I'll usually use that to get most of the fur off, and then I go to the 0.8, which is all the way over here, and then I sew again. It's awesome. Get one of these. It just, like, this is the #1 tip for just getting better shaves. It's just to buy this thing. Mm-hmm.
seeing like just the little bits that are like a little too low?
So if it's only a little too low, like I'll start off by just brushing it. In that box, there was a piece of like very long fur. And that's, I'll show it later on this bodysuit, but it has like long elbow fur, and I'll take a long fur and like brush out the other side, and it pulls fibers from the back to the front, because faux fur is like a woven plastic. So if you shave it a little too low, brush it first, and it might pull some fibers up that'll just like fix it. If it's too far gone, just like snip out and then just replace and just like sew it in there or glue it in there depending on where it is. And then just like shave it again to try to get it like the same length. If it's on the fursuit head, like the face, there's not a lot of places like that will receive tension and where things will break. It's usually like the ears where people pull on it and like the nose, but like the cheek, no one's like taking the fur and pulling it away. So like you can just glue it or just like do a very quick whip stitch.
Going back for shaving, when do you recommend pre-shaving versus shaving on the head?
I will usually do both. I pre-shave things that I know I'm gonna be like very short. So like muzzle, eyebrow, ears, and cheeks. But I usually don't shave it like super short because that's another way you can like fix symmetry problems. So if there's like a dent in one side of the cheek or like one ear is too big, you can just shave one ear shorter than the other to try to make it look correct. So that's what I use the final shave for, to make things look more even.
I have heard people talk highly about like carpet trimmers is a possible option for shaving, and if you wondered if you ever tried that.
I have not, because they are more expensive than that thing. I have seen people use it and like it gets a really nice shave because carpets are acrylic and fake fur is acrylic, so they're actually made to cut fake fur. We're using dog trimmers, which are not made for plastic. Yeah, I don't know if I have a picture on here, but like they shave so well. It's just remarkable. Oh, this is it actually. So the fur in the top right and the fur at the bottom, it's the same fur. Like this is a singular piece of fur that I was shaving. And I shaved it with those clippers. They are amazing. You want to use a plastic separating zipper. I think sometimes it'll say like nylon plastic separating zipper. Because fake fur is plastic and the zipper is plastic, it will tend to just like run right over the fur if the fur gets in the zipper. When you use something like metal, it'll jam up. Also, when people talk about like invisible zippers, they're not talking about invisible zippers. There's a type of zipper that is called invisible. They're very small. You don't want the tiny teeth. When most people are saying invisible zipper, it's just a way of installing the zipper. Zippers are sold with, it'll be like separating zipper blue, and then it'll be like #5, #8, and that's the size of the teeth. I tend to use 5 or 8. 8 is huge. What is this? Yeah, the one I have on this bodysuit is 8, so you can see what it looks like. It has very thick teeth, and it'll actually be hard to cover with your fake fur, and so that's why I did that's the zipper, that's an 8, and then you can see the blue part, and so it covers up the zipper. You can see it's at the very bottom there. And this is that green part, that's an invisible zipper. If you buy an invisible zipper, you can see the teeth. You can barely see the teeth, so they are too small. You want that bigger one on the top, which is a plastic separating zipper. So there are 20 minutes left in this panel. So we can still continue to do questions, but I want everyone to be able to come up and look at the bodysuit. It's turned inside out right now, so let me explain quick. So I sew in the padding for my bodysuits, and that's what this red part is. It's just like a piece of fabric. So it goes fur, stuffing, red fabric, and then it would be my body. The zipper is also lined, so if you look between the zipper and the fur, there'll be a small piece of black fabric. That's just to keep fur from getting in the zipper. And yeah, on the bottom of the ankles, there is Velcro. You can also open it, and that's how I get to the stuffing inside. If I need to unstuff it for washing, I usually don't. I just shove it all in a washing machine. But yeah, so you can come up here and look at the bodysuit. If you have any questions, I will be up here until my next panel, which is in like 30 minutes. So thank you, and you can leave or stay, and I will be here to answer questions.
Just notice the the zippers in the upper thigh. Are those to gain access to your own pockets, pretty much?
Yeah, I use them as pockets because like I don't actually put pockets in my bodysuits. I always forget.